There is a 40-mile stretch of wilderness in Michigan's Upper Peninsula, where hikers walk away from marked trails and do not return. They are not beginners. They carry maps, GPS devices, and enough experience to know better. Yet something about this corridor makes them leave the path. Search teams find their abandoned gear arranged neatly beside the trail, as if the hikers plan to return in moments. Sometimes they do return, hours or days later, with no memory of where they went. Other times they vanish entirely, joining the 46 open missing persons cases that give this region a disappearance rate 3 times higher than anywhere else in Michigan. In April 1968, a college student drove north from Wisconsin to hike the Porcupine Mountains. 2 days later, his car was found on a remote forest road. The keys sat in the ignition. The gas tank was full. The door was unlocked. Small drops of blood marked the front seat. The license plates had been removed. He was never seen again. 57 years later, his case remains open, and the forest that surrounds the spot where his car was found still holds no answers. This is the Michigan Corridor, where people do not simply get lost. They are drawn away from safety, pulled towards something rangers cannot explain and families cannot understand. The reports are documented, the patterns are clear, and the mystery deepens with every new disappearance. On April 13, 1968, Michael Larson left his parents' home in Madison, Wisconsin, and drove north toward Michigan's Upper Peninsula. Larson was 19 years old, a second-year student at the University of Wisconsin. He had recently completed a difficult winter hike in the Porcupine Mountains with 2 friends, crossing hip-deep snow and staying in remote cabins. Despite the harsh conditions, he planned to return alone. 2 days later, a Michigan Department of Conservation officer discovered a vehicle parked on a remote gravel road near the Porcupine Mountains Wilderness State Park. The car sat at a gravel pit off South Boundary Road, approximately 2 miles from Highway 107. The door was unlocked. The keys remained in the ignition. The gas tank was full. Small drops of blood were found on the front seat cushions. The Wisconsin license plates had been removed. There was no sign of the driver. On November 14, 1968, Ontonagon County Sheriff Donald R. Powelson sent a letter to hunters in the area, asking them to watch for any clues related to Larson's disappearance. He mentioned 3 mine shafts located near where the car had been found. One of the shafts had an entrance covered with rock. In May 1969, after snow melted that spring, search efforts resumed. Sheriff Powelson wrote to the Larson family, saying, "We organized many search parties and combed the entire area thoroughly without results. Also, there was a very extensive air search conducted. Despite coordinated ground and air operations, no trace of Michael Larson was ever found." The condition of the car raised questions that were never resolved. The unlocked door and keys in the ignition suggested Michael intended to return quickly. The full gas tank indicated he had recently refueled. The removed license plates pointed to deliberate action, though the reason remained unclear. The blood on the seat was minimal, described in reports as small drops rather than evidence of serious injury. No footprints led away from the vehicle. No clothing or personal belongings were found in the surrounding area. Michael Larson's younger brother, Tom, later mentioned that the car's condition might indicate Michael wanted the vehicle returned to his family. Yet this explanation did not account for Michael's disappearance or what drew him away from the car and into the forest. Search teams checked the 3 mine shafts Sheriff Powelson referenced. They found no evidence of human presence. The forest that surrounds the spot where his car was found has changed little since 1968. The gravel pit still exists. The mine shafts remain. And the question of what happened to Michael Larson continues to sit unanswered in the files of Ontonagon County. 57 years later. Michigan's Upper Peninsula holds approximately 300,000 people across 16,000 square miles. That represents less than 3% of Michigan's total population, yet the region accounts for 46 of the state's 599 open missing persons cases. The disparity becomes clearer when examined through population density. Michigan's Lower Peninsula has a missing persons rate of 5.76 cases per capita. The Upper Peninsula has a rate of 15.66 per capita. That makes the region's disappearance rate 3 times higher than the rest of the state and 3 times higher than the national average. These numbers represent people who vanished and have not been found, people whose disappearances have not been explained. The cases span decades. Some date back to the 1960s. Others occurred within the past 5 years. They include hikers, hunters, campers, and residents who left their homes and never returned. Detective Sergeant James Wachnicki of the Michigan State Police explains that the combination of remoteness, dense forest, and harsh weather creates conditions where locating missing individuals becomes extraordinarily challenging. Winter temperatures drop well below zero. Snowfall accumulates to depths that make travel nearly impossible. Spring thaw creates flooding. Summer brings thick underbrush and limited visibility. Autumn weather shifts rapidly with sudden storms. The Porcupine Mountains Wilderness State Park alone covers 60,000 acres of old-growth forest. The park contains rivers, waterfalls, and miles of trails that connect to even more remote backcountry areas. Hikers who leave marked trails enter spaces where visibility drops to a few feet due to dense hemlock and hardwood growth. Ground cover includes fallen logs, uneven terrain, and seasonal changes that alter the landscape's appearance. Mike Niger, a retired Michigan State Police Detective Sergeant, found Michigan Backcountry Search and Rescue to solve long-term missing persons cases. Niger's work focuses on cases where initial search efforts failed and years have passed without resolution. His methods include sifting soil for traces of human passage and looking for environmental abnormalities that might indicate recent human activity. Yet, statistics alone do not explain why the Upper Peninsula's disappearance rate exceeds that of other remote regions. Alaska, Montana, and northern Maine all contain vast wilderness areas with low population density. Michigan's Upper Peninsula maintains a higher rate of unresolved missing persons cases per capita than these comparable regions. The numbers suggest a pattern that goes beyond terrain difficulty and weather challenges. What distinguishes the Michigan corridor from other wilderness areas is not simply the number of disappearances, but the manner in which people leave. Accounts from the Upper Peninsula describe a recurring pattern. Hikers walk familiar trails, then suddenly veer off the marked path. Their companions turn around to find them gone. Search teams discover abandoned backpacks, water bottles half full, emergency supplies never touched. The gear sits arranged neatly, as if the person stepped away briefly and intended to return. One of the most detailed accounts appeared in 2024. A resident wrote that his friend went hiking in the Upper Peninsula and became separated from the group. The friend returned on his own 2 weeks later, walking back into camp. He said he got lost, but found his way by hearing voices in the distance. He believed he had been gone 15 minutes, maybe an hour at most. The group told him they had been searching for 2 weeks. The man showed no signs of prolonged exposure. He simply walked back and expressed shock when told how much time had passed. Another Upper Peninsula resident confirmed similar experiences. He said, "I live in the UP, and I can attest to similar things happening while I've hiked in the woods up here." This person described going for a bike ride on a familiar trail and returning to find 3 hours had passed. though the ride felt like 45 minutes. Multiple residents mentioned the same sequence of events. A person enters the forest. The surroundings become unusually quiet. Time passes differently than expected. The person returns with no memory of the missing hours and no explanation for what happened. A recurring detail involves voices calling through the forest. The voices sound familiar, sometimes matching the tones of people the hiker knows. One person reported hearing what sounded like their group calling their name, even though the group was miles away. Another mentioned a voice that seemed to come from just beyond the tree line. The voices stop once the hiker exits the area. These accounts do not appear in official ranger logs or state park incident reports. They exist in the accumulated testimony of people who have walked these trails and returned with experiences they cannot explain. The pattern remains consistent. Something draws people away from marked paths. They follow sounds that should not be there, and when they return, if they return, they cannot account for where they went or why they left the trail. Search and rescue operations in Michigan's Upper Peninsula face challenges that ensure many missing persons are never found. The terrain, weather, and remoteness combine to create conditions where even well-coordinated efforts struggle. Weather compounds every difficulty. Winter temperatures regularly fall below zero. Snow accumulates to depths that make foot travel exhausting. Spring brings flooding. Summer heat increases dehydration risk. Autumn storms arrive without warning. A single search may encounter multiple weather systems, each forcing teams to adjust tactics. Communication failures plague search efforts. Large sections of the Upper Peninsula lack cell phone coverage. Radio signals struggle to penetrate dense forest and ridges. Search teams must establish relay points to maintain communication between scattered groups. This slows coordination and delays responses. Seasonal access further limits search windows. Many forest roads close during winter and remain impassable until late spring. Search teams must hike for miles, carrying equipment. Helicopters provide air support, but cannot land due to tree cover. Fixed-wing aircraft cannot penetrate forest canopy to see ground-level details. The 2023 search for 8-year-old mountaineering, who went missing while gathering firewood at the Porcupine Mountains, deployed 150 personnel, 9 K9 units, helicopters, and aircraft. Teams searched 40 square miles. The boy was found after 49 hours, sheltering under a log 2 miles from his campsite. His successful recovery required favorable weather, rapid deployment, and the child's survival instincts. Not all searches end with recovery. Some missing persons are never found. Others are discovered years later. The forest consumes evidence. Animals scatter remains. Weather erases tracks. Time makes witnesses forget details. And the Upper Peninsula's vast terrain ensures that thorough searches remain nearly impossible. Across Michigan's Upper Peninsula, residents report hearing a low-frequency sound that persists for hours without clear origin. The phenomenon is known as the hum, and while it occurs worldwide, reports from Michigan's remote communities stand out for their consistency and the absence of obvious sources. The hum is typically described as a persistent, low rumble, resembling an idling car engine or distant aircraft. Those who hear it report that the sound seems to come from outdoors and grows louder when windows are opened. The frequency is low enough that not everyone can detect it. In Michigan, documented reports appear in Copper Harbor and Petoskey, both located in remote areas of the Upper Peninsula. Unlike reports from urban centers where industrial activity might explain the sound, these locations lack obvious sources. Copper Harbor sits at the northern tip of the Keweenaw Peninsula, surrounded by Lake Superior and dense forest. One entry describes the sound as a pulsing, vibrating noise. Some residents report that the hum accompanies other unusual phenomena. One individual attempted to record the sound. During the recording, a buzzing noise appeared on the audio that the person did not hear while recording. The video footage became distorted, developing a wavy quality not present during the event. No official investigation has been conducted into the sound. It exists as a persistent mystery, mentioned by those who experience it and dismissed by those who do not. The reports continue, and the sound persists in the background of life in certain parts of the Upper Peninsula, unresolved and unexplained. Since 1966, a light has appeared nightly near the town of Paulding in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. The Paulding light manifests as a bright glow on a distant hillside along Robbins Pond Road. Thousands visit the site each year. The light appears with remarkable consistency, changing colors and occasionally seeming to move toward observers before vanishing. The most popular legend involves a railroad brakeman killed while attempting to stop an oncoming train. According to the story, the light is the brakeman's lantern as he continues his eternal vigil. In 2010, Michigan Tech students determined the light originated from automobile headlights on US Highway 45, approximately 4.5 miles away. Yet the Paulding light continues to draw visitors who believe the explanation is incomplete. Store owner Michelle Strong directs tourists to the site daily. Her Paulding General Store dedicates a third of its space to Paulding light merchandise, claiming the mystery remains unsolved. Visitors describe experiences that resist easy dismissal. One reported that the light appeared to approach them, growing brighter before suddenly disappearing. Another mentioned the light changing from red to white repeatedly. The discrepancy between scientific explanation and persistent belief highlights a pattern common throughout the Upper Peninsula. Official investigations provide rational answers, yet the experiences of those who visit these sites do not always align with those explanations. The Paulding light continues to manifest nightly, part of the region's identity and its collection of phenomena that defy complete understanding. The Michigan Corridor stretches roughly 40 miles between Lake Superior's southern shore and the interior highlands of the Upper Peninsula. It encompasses the Porcupine Mountains, sections of the Ottawa National Forest, and dozens of smaller wilderness areas. The land does not announce itself. It simply sits, quiet and dense, holding its patterns close. People continue to enter these woods. Some return with stories of time that did not pass the way it should have, of sounds that have no source, of voices calling them away from marked trails. A smaller number do not return at all. Their cases join the 46 open missing persons files, each one a name, a date, and unanswered questions. Local residents speak of the corridor with steady calm. When asked if the woods are dangerous, they respond that the woods are the woods. They simply behave in ways that require attention. Newcomers receive simple advice: stay on marked trails, hike with others, tell someone where you are going, and if the forest becomes too quiet, turn back. The statistical anomaly persists. The Upper Peninsula maintains its 3 times higher disappearance rate. The numbers hold steady, suggesting a pattern that is neither random nor easily explained by terrain alone. Something about this specific region makes people vanish more frequently than elsewhere. Every few years, a new case opens. A person enters the forest and does not come out. Search teams deploy, families wait, and the corridor adds another name to its quiet, growing list. The land offers no explanations. It sits as it has for centuries, holding old-growth forests, hidden mine shafts, and trails that wind through terrain both beautiful and unforgiving. And people keep walking into the woods, some of them lured by something they cannot name, drawn away from marked paths by voices that call them deeper, following sounds that lead nowhere and leave no trace. The Michigan Corridor does not demand attention. It does not warn or threaten. It exists in the space between what can be measured and what can be understood, offering patterns that resist explanation and stories that remain unfinished. Investigators continue their work, families continue their searches, and the corridor remains quiet and patient, holding its missing and keeping its silence. If you want to explore more places where people vanish into landscapes that offer no answers, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment about which mystery stood out to you. Your support helps us continue creating long-form documentaries that examine the quiet patterns hidden in America's most remote corners.